And there, standing beside the road, 5 feet outside the corn, was a booger.
Okay, we're here today with Jerry Millwood, who has some fascinating stories I think you'll want to hear. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Jerry, and you just let her go.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start with the progression of how I've got from where I was to where I'm at now.
Okay.
When I was 7, give or take, my granddaddy took me to see Legend of Boggy Creek, 1970s. And then when I was 10, 1977, at the Scholastic Book Fair at Bessemer City Central Elementary School, I bought a Bigfoot book, Bigfoot by B. Ann Slate and Alan Berry. Thus was born a lifelong interest. But at the time, up until 10 years ago or so, it was purely for entertainment. And we moved to the South Mountains area. Being a person that likes the woods, I immediately started taking advantage of my new surroundings, spending days and days in the woods. Began to notice tree breaks. I knew enough about it to know what I was seeing. And you find one or two, that's one thing. But by the time I hit a dozen in many different places there, I reached out to Lyle Blackburn on email. I said, "Tell me about this." He said, "Yeah, you're seeing tree breaks, and most of them probably point toward water." And he was right. So the next thing that was the progression, a big step, was I heard my first wood knock. That was in 2015, summer of 2015. I was still working then, so I had to get up early in the morning. 5:30 a.m., had the windows open. And a wood knock from one of the nearby hollers rang out. I wasn't sure what I was hearing, but I knew it was something hitting a tree. And it started to gain momentum after that. We started hearing vocalizations, whoops, these weird growls. We would hear just these howls that started off real low, and it was very creepy. And so my interest was peaking. I said, "There's something going on around these South Mountains."
Right.
August of 2017, my wife and I was driving, and we turned right onto a dead-end road. There was a cornfield on the left, and of course it was August, so the corn was up all the way. And there, standing beside the road, 5 feet outside the corn, was a booger. And what struck me the most was how broad-shouldered that thing was, and just how big and bulky. And it was standing, of course, taller than the corn, and it took me a minute to process it. And I got the car stopped, and in my mind, I was like, I'm going to back the car up and then point the headlights. And Nancy said, "Hurry, it's moving." And she said, "It's going into the corn." And I got the car backed up, got the headlights on it, but it had just went into the corn, but you could see it above the corn moving, and you could see the corn moving along with it. Now, it didn't go through that corn like a bear would, just like a bull in the china shop, and just mow over the corn and leave a swath. No, it was moving between the stalks, and I would have to say fast but gracefully. The bug bit me right then, and I had to know things.
It gets in your skin, though.
It does.
It gets in you, and you're just like, you got to know more.
It's one thing to read about it. It's one thing to hear the wood knocks, vocalizations, or find evidence. And I hadn't found a footprint up to that point, but to see one, and it was 20 feet from us, and I was hooked.
That's wild.
It still entertains me to do this and to read and study. But
And how far from your house was that?
a couple miles, not even 2 miles. We're there in the middle of. We're there in a squatchy place. And then 2019, December of 2019, it was one of my family members, and he still has a career, so I won't identify specifically which family member, but he and my daughter come to stay some days during Christmas vacation. And we seen one down the woods next to my pasture. Fleeting moment. That one wasn't fascinating as the first one, but it was being that close, even closer to my house. I wonder, what are they doing? What are they? All these questions. All the questions you have. When I started spending more time in the woods, started spending a lot more time at night outside. Go out, check on my pasture animals, maybe get a chair, just sit and listen. Take my dogs, walk them around, and over the years, I've gotten to hear a lot of things. I know
there are lots of little things that you catch around your house, the barn.
Yep. Our feed barrels being broke into. They have the locking bands on them. Something with intelligence and a thumb has to open those. It's like pranks that's been played on us by the boogers. Take stuff out of the barn, just put it out in the pasture, drag our water barrels halfway down the hill. We had our stuff in our backyard. We had a picnic table and some other things. One morning I went out there and it was strewn all over the backyard. And I was told, and I believe this, it was a juvenile or two entertaining themselves just like a human teenager would do. Beating on our house. I took a trip out west. Second night I was back home. I guess one of them wanted me to know it was still there. It beat on the front of the house about 12 o'clock that night. It's been a common thing with the beating on the house at odd hours.
That's happened a lot.
It's happened a whole lot. Yep.
You have to know where Jerry lives. This is not in some neighborhood.
Nope. And I live in a place where people generally don't like being out at night anyway, but you don't go creeping around somebody's house, because if you're found doing that at night, you'll be found laying there the next morning. I've not got a lot of people to open up to me that's in my inner circle as far as where I live, except for one couple. But when I started talking to other folks, a concerted effort to try to get information, especially from these old timers, I had a few open up to. And I made it known to just a small number of people that I was interested in it, that had some experiences. I went to work at the store in Kaiser, that little store, Mountain View Grocery. And I had only been hired a couple of weeks, and the owner called me. She said, Fox is coming to do a documentary here. And I told him about you. Would you be willing to interview? I said, yeah, let me think about it. Called the dude. I guess he was in LA. Said, yeah, I'll do it, but you silhouette me and disguise my voice. He said, no problem. So they came, they did it. It aired January of 21, if I remember right. They silhouetted me, but they did not disguise my voice. So I thought, I'm in for it. You don't want to be ridiculed, and that's why most people stay quiet about it. But really, I had nobody that ever said was ugly about it. One guy kind of gave me a hard time. He gave me a hard time about everything. He was just that kind of dude. But all of a sudden, people started coming to tell me their stories. And after a couple of years, I had interviewed 30 people, which is my favorite thing, Bob. That's the thing I'm in love with, hearing people's encounters. And that's how I got into doing my little show. And the more stories that we hear from other people that we feel like are credible, the more it validates what we do. I don't need anybody's approval, but I like hearing these stories because there's other people out there that originally felt the same way as I did, and you didn't want to tell nobody about it except for a few people. And then, but when you get to start talking about it, it does something for you,
Oh yeah.
And 2019, you and I had met in 2020. So it would have been after that me and Dwight hooked up for the first time. I don't remember exactly when, but you and I became friends on Facebook. And then I guess me and Dwight became friends by proxy because I wound up, I don't know why, I just picked the phone up one night and I sent Dwight a message. said, man, we've got some really weird stuff that goes on around here, and I want to talk to somebody about it. And y'all, I would trust y'all. And Dwight called me. We talked about an hour or so on the phone. And then he came up, spent some time one night, and then the next time you came. And meeting you guys, getting in Dirty Sasquatch and now Sasquatch Recon was the best thing that could have happened to you.
Well, good.
In this, you know, because I needed somebody to teach me stuff.
Oh, you're in a great spot. So, you know what I mean? To have, I mean, you live there. When we do stuff, we have to travel at least some hour and a half. You're right there in the middle of it. You know, that's incredible to me.
And, you know, there's been people, even people that's close to me, that have said, why do you get to have all these experiences? And I have to remind them, I'm outside every night. Even if it's raining or I've got dogs to take out, I've got animals to check on before I go to bed. Every night of the year, unless I'm a rare occasion of me being gone on a trip. I've had a couple close people. I mean, I basically cut ties with them because they said they didn't believe me.
Well, let me interject this right quick. I would tell people that, you know, as I got into this, and I had my stepson, he's grown up, and I would tell him about stuff and show him pictures when he came over to the house. So one day I said, hey, we got some new stuff, and he had this really weird look on his face. And I said, what's wrong? I said, do you think I'm full of it, or you don't believe me? He said, no. He said, I do believe you, and it scares the crap out of me. So if you don't mind, don't show me nothing.
Oh, wow.
So I think some of those people that are poo-pooing and whatever, I think deep down inside, they don't want to think that these things are actually out there, and they are out there.
They are out there. There's no doubt. I'm not a believer. I'm a knower.
Exactly.
And you know, one guy in particular watches all the televised Bigfoot shows and eats it up and asks for seconds. Not casting dispersions on any one show, but you know, there's some stuff out there that's just scripted.
Right.
But when I reached out to him and I said, I know you're interested in this, and he said he didn't believe me.
Really?
And he sits in the safety of his couch, watch this stuff on his TV.
Right.
I invited him to come. So we'll get down the creek bottom, we'll camp.
Yeah.
Never took me up. So over time, I've given up some of those hard feelings I had.
Right.
And what you just said makes a lot of sense, and that could very well be the case.
They don't want to admit it. He admitted it to me, but you know, I never even thought about it. It really, not everybody, but I think a lot of people, it scares the crap out of them to think that these things are actually out there walking. Buddy, they are, and they're right.
And they have scared me on more than one occasion.
Absolutely.
Encounters where I've been, you know, way down near the creek bottom checking on animals. I had an animal missing. This has happened several times, and I have to go looking for him. One night, I was spotlighting, looking for, it was a llama that had been sick, and they'll go off by themselves, you know. And I hit a pair of red eyes in the woods. And then I got one night, I was looking for one of my animals. I was way down there, all the way next to the fence, and I hear whistling. That scared me. And twice I've been hollered at. Had a cat that I thought was my cat one night was going downhill. I said, oh no, you can't go down. I was going after him. So everything in these woods will eat you. And I got all the way to the bottom, and I got close enough, I figured out the cat wasn't mine. I looked down, and my cats had followed me. Oh man, and it was about to laugh about it, and suddenly, maybe 30 yards, probably a little less, inside the wood line, and I picked two of the cats up because I could only carry two, and I had my spotlight dangling, and I went back up that hill like I was 20 years old again.
And that is a steep hill.
That scared me. And then I wasn't even that far down on the second time I got yelled at, over to on the eastern side. From it had to be. It wasn't in the woods. It was out in this field that's next to me. I couldn't pinpoint where, but I got yelled at. It was close enough that I felt it. Ugh, that bassy vibrates, almost like you're standing next to a bass speaker. Ugh. And here's what I was told: that they were probably at that late hour down there hunting deer, and they didn't want me down there. I can buy that.
I can believe that. I can absolutely do that.
The worst, the closest I've ever came to getting hurt, or anybody's come, is the rock throwing incidents. And my wife, back in first weekend of August 2024, we were creek walking way down Ward's Creek, middle of nowhere, and a rock came out of after we had heard two wood knocks, broad daylight. A rock come in from our left, which would have been the west, and missed her head by no more than 6 inches. Sailed right overhead, landed in the creek. Big old piece of quartz about that big. There's been 4 rock throwing incidents right there in our general area. The first one, 2 hunters were father and son team. They was in separate tree stands, and the son heard what he described to be an ape-like noise. Ooh, ooh. And he heard walking. This was zero dark thunder, like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark. Then he hears walking in the leaf litter, and it went silent. And he heard, and he said he just instinctively knew it was the sound of something that had been thrown coming through the trees. And a rock that was a little smaller than a volleyball, because it was still there when I went to investigate. It had hit that big sweet gum he was in. It knocked the bark off the sweet gum. This was in 2018. And he said the only thing I could do was stay in that tree. And after that, he curtailed his hunting. Can't say that I blame him. Second rock throwing incident, my cousin and some of my family came up. We camped out, did a night hike. As we finished the night hike, was heading down the western end of that ridge that's on the property, and a rock came in from our right, which would have been from the north. I was in the very back of the line, and my friend Todd was in front of me, and it barely missed his head. There was a rock throwing incident where my friend's brand new Jeep, broad daylight, down near the Broad River, bam! Rock hit the top of it with sufficient force to scar the roof. And then there was the rock throwing incident with my wife. But out of everybody I've talked to in that area, I have no stories where a person was hurt. None. Dogs, we have a lot of dogs that are missing. A dog that hung around our place was attacked by something, and he wound up dying of internal injuries, but he had been slammed against a tree. Another dog, a big old dog, about 100-pound dog, was found. He went missing. Neighbor went and looked for him. Found him in the creek bottom, alive, in the creek, with his back broken. Prior to us living in the area, there had been an incident where somebody's dog had been just absolutely beat to death. Many other stories in and around Kaiser of dogs being killed, cats, goats, and pigs. That seems to be the list. Either they go just missing, pig disappears out of a pig pen. Never find it. The pig didn't dig out. Something lifted it out of there. What can lift a pig?
And if it was some other natural predator, there would have been an attack right there.
Right on the spot. People, there was the famous time period in that area from 78 into 79 where it was a frenzy of sightings. And one of the things was Mr. Forrest Price found one of his goats with his neck broken. That makes sense to me because of the deer kills that we found. Relatively small area, you find over a period of a year, you find a dozen, 12, 13, 14 deer kills, various stages of decay, from bleached bones all the way up to fresh. Ribs broken, legs yanked off. There was the one where the deer's front legs were yanked off together and were still attached, laying there on the ground. But several had their necks broken. So that makes sense. I think that they use certain areas to do You've got the watchers and the chasers. Watchers will hide in a holler. They'll funnel. The chasers will funnel them, and then they don't have weapons, so they just have to grab them, attack them, manhandle them, and the quickest way to incapacitate them is break a leg, break the neck, and more than ample evidence of that happening. Nothing else in those woods can grab a deer and crush its ribs or break its leg or break its neck. You find one deer with a broken neck, there might be an explanation, but multiple, that has even further convinced me. And I think that I don't think they're, at least in our area in the South Mountains, I don't think they're dangerous to humans.
Or you would know.
I would know.
You would know.
First couple of years in that area, I would pack my bag, put a hammock in my backpack, go on a 7-8 hour hike, stop somewhere, string the hammock up, take a nap. I would camp out by myself. If they wanted to hurt me, they had plenty of chances. But I got spooked back about 2018. I hit a period of being spooked. Thought it ain't the best idea in the world for me to be out there at night by myself. And I still have that feeling, but it's not so much spooked as much as it is the unknown. Because we don't know. We don't know what else is out there.
That's right.
I don't know that it's the Squatches that are killing these dogs like this.
You just don't.
It's the fact that I don't know.
You don't know what's happening. And we have gotten pictures, especially like him, of other things that are not. I don't think Bigfoot related. Transparent figure. Some things that happen just are really just. You're right. It's the unknown. It's like I wouldn't go by myself.
I don't want to wind up on missing 411.
Exactly. If I had to go out there by myself, if something really, really important depending on it, I'd do it. But just for fun. Yeah.
During the day, I'll hike by myself. There's certain areas I won't go into by myself. The area with all the deer kills, there's 2 areas. I won't go there by myself day or night. I think it's just a matter of common sense. Now, Dwight helped me out greatly on something. I was doing my research on that time period in 1978 and 1979. And he found a documentary that a man had came and did in early 1980. And his name was John N. Alexander. Dwight sent it to me. I needed to interview a couple people, but I couldn't because they were dead.
Right.
And so within this documentary, I learned so much. Witnesses led my research to something other than Bigfoot. I'm convinced they had 3 things going on during that time period. They had a rogue Squatch that was out, didn't mind showing itself. At the time, there was a big male panther. But I believe there was something else because in that documentary, they talked about finding these huge canine-like tracks, and they had a cast of one of them. They showed it on the documentary.
Really?
That big. And it puzzled some of the old-timers that had been in these woods their whole life. So, canine-like, huge. I'm at the point where I don't know if I'm completely comfortable saying that I believe in dogmen, but I believe in dogmen.
Right. Well, we've seen enough to, and this is just my limited experience, that we've seen them that are, I'll say, snout-ish, like a snout, but not like a German Shepherd snout, but like a little coochie kind of snout. But I mean, is that? Yeah, you just don't know. We get little pieces here and there,
Yep.
And I've talked to people who I think are credible that they've seen them. So,
Same here. I'm about out of my shell on dogmen. Maybe this will completely get me out of it. And I've talked to enough credible people too. You guys. Things y'all have experienced, and the other people that I met, the dudes in NCI and some of the other mountain people. There's something out there besides Bigfoot.
well, I tell you, you heard of Tim Baker, Pimbo.
Yep.
I talked to him. Tim Deals and I spent a few days with him, and he told story after story after encounter after encounter after. But you know, this is a long period of years. These are over decades. And he was like, "Yeah, no doubt, I've seen them. They're there."
There was one incident, and at the time, I wasn't educated enough to think it was something other than a squatch. It was 2019, and it was out late one night down the hill in my creek bottom. In fact, it was the spot where y'all came and set up that one night. In that general area, I hear this howl, unlike anything I had heard up to that point. I know my animals in Western North Carolina. I know what howls, coyotes. And it definitely wasn't a wolf howl. I've heard plenty of wolf howls. It was not any known animal, and it started out this low howl, and it crescendoed, and there was so much power behind that, and it was so close. I was a comfortable distance away, probably 300 yards. That scared me.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, it inspired me to write that scary poem that I did called "The Haunted Well." That impacted me greatly. It almost made me emotional. There was something about that incident. There's been other times I've been in the woods, and you guys know what I'm talking about, when you just suddenly you feel scared.
Yeah.
You got this weird feeling, or something happens, you feel emotional. You just all of a sudden feel emotional. That night, I went inside and I was telling Nancy what I just heard. Just about to cry, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. Am I having some kind of breakdown? But I've heard that twice now. Most recently, back in April, my son and his crew came and got a bed Airbnb over in the country near Kaiser. My daughter, hey brother, my daughter and her friend and I were out late, just listening, and we heard it, and it was coming. That place was right at the foot of the South Mountains. And we heard that howl. Immediately after we heard that howl, behind us, somewhere, something answered it. So I've heard it a total of 2 times, but that night we heard it twice back to boom in the mountains, and then behind us, which would have been south of us.
And you wonder if that's not something deep down inside from ancestral DNA or something like
triggering the flight or fight. Flight, because
right.
I ain't fixing to try to fight nothing that's 8-9 feet tall.
Right.
Mama raised ugly kids, but not dumb ones. I don't know if you'll remember this or not. The first night that you came out, you and Dwight came, and I was telling you that I'd had those experiences where I had that uneasy feeling and I was scared. And you told me, and then Dwight backed you up, said, if you're by yourself and you have that feeling, get out. Leave. And I have that's a rule I've gone by, because that what's going on deep in the middle of our brain with here's your sign.
Exactly.
Like they say, read the room. There's a lot of crazy things that's happened in that one spot. The family, my friends went and camped there the night they heard the gibberish language, and they stayed. The gibberish quit, but then they were surrounded on 3 sides. They could hear walking, and in the middle of the night, they packed up everything. The kids they could have camped for a week. That's how much stuff they had. And I went down there to check on them next morning. They were gone. I checked my phone. He said, call me. And they told me the story, and he said, I couldn't stay.
And I think kids, well, your thoughts is I can't expose my kids to this, but I think the Squatches like to see kids. I can't prove that.
I think that's what drew them in that day, because they got there early, went down there, they was playing, and you could hear the sound of children. It was 2 younger children in the group, and they were laughing and playing like kids, and I believe that brought them in.
I do too.
And they were curious. It's, you know, that spot I personally camped there with the group. And one occasion we were surrounded like that. But and I don't know what their intentions are or were. Probably just curious, just like we would be, keeping an eye on us because we're in their home. But I remember laying there that night and thinking, there are really unknown creatures living in these woods, and they're 20, 30 yards from me, and there's more than one of them. Yeah. It don't matter how many people's down here sleeping in these tents. If they wanted to get us, we'd be got.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And as much as, you know, we've all been out in the woods now. Other than a couple little rock throws, I mean, rock throws that seemed serious, I'll say. I've never been, I've had a bad feeling a few times, like I just said, but I think if they was going to get us, if that was the case, we'd have been gone. You out there by yourself, even in the daytime.
Yep.
White going by himself a lot. You know?
They are masters of their environment. They have this tremendous physical size and speed. There's nothing to stop them. And there's more than one, and there usually is. If you have means of self-defense and you shoot one, it ain't gonna stop the other ones. But I don't think they want to hurt us.
I've always thought that you might see one, but I think there's at least a couple of them. Because what we've seen, especially in Uwharrie, and maybe I'm crazy, but this is from my own observations. They traveled in groups of 3, and I've heard other people say that. So just because you see one, and maybe that one wants you to see him to either scare you away or draw you away from something else. Maybe there's little ones around. You know how those little birds do? They'll act like they're
hurt.
They act like they're hurt. I mean, these things are not doing that, but they might.
But they're of high intelligence. Absolutely. I think they're probably as smart as we are, if not smarter, and even possess an extra sense that we don't have, a sixth sense, if we want to call it that. But highly intelligent. They've got their reasons. Making, these tree structures, these X's in the woods, and the different things that we find. They've got reasons for all of it, and I want to know. I want to know why.
That's the whole driving thing. I need to know. I want to know as much as I can.
Somebody got some splaining to do. Exactly. I've seen the whole gambit there. I've seen stuff that were just fairly benign, all the way up to things that horrified me on a regular basis. Yeah. Footprints, plenty of footprints. I'm beyond convinced. Way beyond convinced. There's no question in my head. Now I just want answers.
You have several different animals at your house. What animals do you think of the ones you got are most sensitive to the Sasquatch being around? Is there any one that's more sensitive to it than others? What's your observation as far as how they react to each animal?
My dogs, highly sensitive. They either go, it's from one extreme to the other. Either the hair on the back of their, they got their hair up and they're growling and snarling, or they've tucked tail and wanting back in the house. Mm-hmm. Usually they tuck tail when we smell the smell. Mm-hmm. The alpacas, they're natural guard animals. We've got the alpacas and we've got 2 goats. Often I'll find, go out to check on them and find that the alpacas have set up basically a defensive perimeter. The goats next to the fence behind them, and they're on alert. Their ears are up and they make this noise.
Exactly, an alert, an alarm noise.
The cat, when I had cats outside, the slightest vocalization, they would run and hide. Mm-hmm. I brought my cats in, they stay in now because 2 of them disappeared. We've had dogs hurt and killed. The dogs are the ones that alert me. Pay attention to your dog.
So the ducks and the turkeys, do they have any particular reaction, or they just carry on business as normal?
No, if something's going on and there's any kind of hubbub going on at night, those two male turkeys will crank up and start with their stuff. And sometimes the rooster, my rooster died. I don't have a rooster anymore, but the roosters, I don't know if it was because things were going on out of the ordinary, that we was having noises, and I was out there messing around doing whatever at such a late hour.
I noticed when we were on the ridge walking, I could hear your turkeys from time to time. Do you think that may ever call them in when they are out in the woods talking about Bigfoot and they hear a turkey gobble? Do you think that ever would bring them closer to your property?
Well, I hearken back to a conversation you and I had.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was this, is the first couple of years was basically I found tree breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2015 is when I started hearing tree knocks, vocalizations. And that was about the time that we moved lock, stock, and barrel and brought animals with us. And you said these new animals in the area has drawn their interest. And they're curious about, especially alpacas and llamas.
Mm-hmm.
You also rotate a lot of animals that you get in that you and your wife require through taking care of other people's animals. So every time y'all get a new animal in, have you ever given any thought to a new voice in the pasture from an animal, and then suddenly you start hearing more vocalizations or anything like that?
Now nothing seems to make it ebb or flow.
Yeah. So you would be comfortable saying that regardless of the rotation of stock, there's just constant animal presence. So
Always.
They're just going to come regardless.
Constantly from 2015 until now.
Yeah.
We've had it.
Okay, that's
animals.
a 10-year stint, so that's a long track record.
And it peaked 2017. And since then, it's stayed roughly at the same level.
Right.
And honestly, the one thing that I'm super afraid of is it stopping.
What?
Is them stopping.
Yeah.
Leave the area. That would devastate me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2017 was a heavy area for me and Bob that year in 2017. There was a lot of activity in the South Mountain area for whatever reason.
Yep.
In 2017. That's when some of your neighbors had some issues.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Well.
The night that the people and I
never talked to them.
I never talked to them.
Neighbors about that incident.
There was the incident across the holler from me where the people come out late at night because our other neighbor alerted us that they were hearing the whoop whoops. That's what she calls them. And I went outside to see it. I heard it, the direction, and I kind of just honed in on that direction. And I hear a big diesel fire up over yonder. And it was December, so that the foliage the leaves were gone, and I could see the headlights from the distance. But instead of backing up to leave, they pulled toward the woods, and I hear shotguns, bam, 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 and they peeled out of there. And I didn't see them again for a year.
Something happened. Something went on.
One of my neighbors was cutting their grass for them. They were gone, and I don't know them, and never had a chance to even try to breach the subject with them, or a chance to for them to get to know me. I would love to know the answer to what happened that night.
I think you'll find out one day.
That's really interesting. I do have a question. Close to your area, there's the mystery creature called Nobby. Okay. Have you ever thought about any association with creatures that are closer to your properties versus the Nobby, or do you think they're related?
I think
the same clan, or maybe just a different group altogether?
Well, I think the word Nobby is, most people don't know. They think, well, there's one of these creatures. But Nobby has become the generic term for Bigfoot.
Right.
It got tagged to the name Nobby in 79. A reporter, I won't say Charlotte Observer, who did a lot of work covering this stuff, gave it the nickname Nobby after Carpenter's knob. And it stuck. There was previous names for it. The old timers called it Fossey Mo. I still have no idea where that term came from, but the old timers used this. And of course, boogers and wampus. Anything unknown in the woods is a wampus cat,
catamount.
Anything weird. It could be a 9-foot Bigfoot or a Black Panther, but if it's unknown, it's a wampus or a booger. But the name Nobby stuck in there in the late 70s. I think that there are some of them that migrate when it's hot for whatever reason. I believe some of them follow Ward's Creek and goes back on up into the South Mountains, which, as the crow flies, the border of the South Mountains is 5.5 miles from it. It gets hot. Some of them go up in elevation, and some of them don't. Some stay because although it dies down during the summer as far as the frequency of stuff happening, some of them leave. And then when it gets cold weather, that's when it peaks.
So in your area, you would say the wintertime months are the most active?
Yep.
Okay. We've seen that change at different spots that we researched at. Some are more prevalent in the spring and fall. Some are even in the summertime. So it's good to know that your area, you think it is the winter months that really bring them out and make them become more vocal and visible.
I had an old timer tell me. It was, a matter of fact, the first old timer that really opened up to me. He said that Ward's Creek was like he said, if you want to see one, you're going to want to go down along Ward's Creek between here and Ward's Gap, because they go back and forth. And this fellow lived not too far from Ward's Creek on north of Kaiser. I think that when it's hot, I think the older ones go back to higher elevation, because as we get older, we handle heat. We don't handle heat as well. I think the younger ones stay back. Why they stay back and stay there? Well, it's a rich hunting ground for deer, coon, possum. We have a large amount of deer in that area.
It sounds like the four of us have a destiny with Ward's Creek.
Yep.
In our immediate future.
The first footprints I ever found was on Ward's Creek. The most footprints that I found have been on Ward's Creek.
Yeah.
And I at the time, I believed the old timer when he told me that. I didn't doubt him a bit, but hearing somebody say it and then finding evidence that it's true.
Yeah.
Many a slip twixt a cup and a lip. I did a podcast with Para Reality Radio last Sunday, and the guy the conversation flowed in such a manner that it brought me to a conclusion. And it was kind of one of these things, like a bolt out of the blue, an epiphany. He said, what's the best evidence that you've personally found? And I thought about it a minute, and I said, it's the totality of the body of everything. That is you find in this business, you find puzzle pieces. Next thing you know, you have one puzzle piece, but then you've got a table full of puzzle pieces. And they all supplement one another and corroborate one another. Eyewitness testimonies, footprints, videos, personal experiences. And it has, it's the whole body. I can't even, the video, this last video that I got is compelling. I still remain skeptical, and I want y'all to study it. The only reason I hadn't seen it is because I've been in a whirlwind. But you guys take a look at it, and it's probably the best evidence that I've gotten so far. I think it's the old Sasquatch. But that night I went to check on my animals. I'll have to look on the video to see what the date was, but they were all gathered against the eastern side of the fence. If you're standing up in the barn on the left, to your left is the east. All the way up against the fence. The two goats were touching the fence, and at the time I had 4 alpacas. One has since died, and they were in that guard formation, ears up, and I smelled a little bit of the smell. But that was one of them times when something was making the hair on my neck stand up, and that don't always happen anymore. And I thought, well, the only thing I can do is I went and got my spotlight in my phone. Started spotlighting, and over to the right, over there in that riding ring that's just to the west of my fence, within my neighbor's pasture. I caught movement for a quick second. And I turned my phone on, and I actually used it like you would use a set of binoculars. Actually, it was my spotlight was in my left hand, my phone was in the right hand, and I was getting excited. And I caught movement again. I couldn't zero in on it. And I cut the video off, and I was going to start just press down the shutter button and start snapping pictures. And I shut the video off, and I pulled up the video and was just going to look for a minute. And I thought, I'm going to delete it. That's a bunch of memory. But I didn't. And the pictures that I took, nothing, I didn't get anything. But when I went back the last 15 seconds or so, down south of that riding ring on lower ground, you'll see it, was something extremely tall. Those fence posts with that riding ring are 6.5 foot maybe, clearly taller than those fence posts. And it was on a lower elevation, probably a 2 foot differential, but it's still yet showing. And there's, you know, some play comes in on the angle and everything. I was up on higher ground, but still it was clearly taller than those fence posts. White, I wasn't using my phone. It was just my phone camera, no night vision, but it's either white or gray. And y'all look at it and you tell me what you think. I didn't realize what I had. I was actually focusing on the inside of the riding ring. You know, we're not supposed to have, but you know, we got that deer. Oh, there's something going in there to get the deer, the one with 3 legs. And that's where I was focusing with the spotlight. And I had one of those experiences where it was, I don't know, I was just like almost freaking. It was, you know, don't normally freak out or panic or anything, but I was just, I don't know, it was strange. And then when I looked at the video, the very end of it, I even thought, I said, I thought I seen something. And I was thinking, well, whatever it is, I can't. And it was there. It was there. It's on video. So you guys break that down. You're welcome to however you want to use it.
Jared, man, we appreciate you sitting down and sharing with us, and there'll be more to come. We're going to come up to your place and see what we can do, and give everybody maybe a little better idea of what's going on. We appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys are like, yes, sir. Y'all are like family. You are family. Y'all took me in, embraced me, and
good. You're welcome.
I appreciate y'all more than you know.